Good afternoon and welcome to Aston Martin. My name is Peter Hughes. I'm the Vice Chairman of Friends of Hanworth Park House, and I'm here today with Steve Ordingham, who I'll introduce, who works here full time on the heritage and also on the customer liaison, but I'll let you explain more about that. But just Steve, what I'd like to ask you today is how Aston Martin, its history and its production, how that fits in to the history of Feltham and Hanworth Park House.
Yeah, okay, well, nice to see you again, Peter. Basically, these two cars that we've got either side of us were built at Victoria Road in Feltham. And really for us, where Hanworth Park fits into our story is that after World War II, we had a bomb-damaged factory in Victoria Road, and David Brown had just bought Aston Martin, so the tractor maker David Brown bought the company and then bought Lagonda, which was based in Staines, and he needed a bigger site. So quite simply, he'd outgrown a small factory in Victoria Road, and just down the road, about a mile away, was Hanworth Air Park, and vacant buildings left over from making aeroplanes. So that's really how we ended up being located in the perimeter of Hanworth.
Good afternoon, here I am with Steve again, and we've got this fantastic collection of historic cars here from Aston Martin Lagonda. And as the Friends of Hanworth Park House and the History Group, we're really interested in where, in terms of your production, design and production, where it fits into the history and the time scale from when the cars were first produced in Feltham and Hanworth to when it went to, and where that fits into the production and also the racing team and those interesting features.
Okay, well basically there's a lot of history there, and Aston Martin has got 106 years of history, so there's a huge amount to cover. And over the years we've concentrated more on what I would call the Newport Pagnell era of history, where a lot of our road cars were built. The racing history, the events of the racing itself tended to outweigh more in interest than the actual where it happened. But we're now starting to realise exactly what happened where. And so really perfect timing in terms of coming across your group, and being able to kind of link it into the research that we're doing. And we've got a lot of people to help us. We've got the owners of the cars that we know. There are people that are historians on the David Brown period. There's the Aston Martin Heritage Trust, which is the museum.
In Wallingford, is that instead?
Yeah, in Oxfordshire. They look after the interests of the company's heritage and the club, Aston Martin Owners Club Heritage. So they're really our official museum partner. And then there's the Lagonda Club, which is, you have to remember, Lagonda is a separate company.
Yeah.
And the pre-war archives and the early post-war Lagonda cars are looked after really well by the Lagonda Club. So there's lots of people that we can all talk to uncover exactly what happened when, and really to find out more about what happened in the workshops that surrounded Hanworth Park House, and that's really interesting in itself.
So as we look at these two cars here, I believe these are Feltham cars?
Yeah, these were both built on Victoria Road, and in the pre-war era, the bodies were made by Bert Patelli's brother, who owned a coach building company next door to the Aston Martin factory. So over time, those two businesses were really kind of dependent on each other, really.
The other part of the history that's really fascinating and the collectors really love is the whole racing history, and especially that golden era during the 1950s people think about, like 1959 Le Mans, for example. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, well, Hanworth Park was where the racing team were based at the park. Engineering was also based there, so the two would have worked together very closely.
And that was just in those buildings around the house itself?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So all the famous 50s race cars for both Aston Martin and also the Lagonda race car, they would have been engineered and built at Hanworth Park. So really, just a stone's throw from the house, if you literally threw a stone, it would hit the foundations of those workshops.